Welcome to Content That Attracts, a brand new masterclass that I'm so excited to teach because honestly, I didn't really know until Instagram launched its brand new feature, Trial Reels. I didn't really realize how many people struggle with creating growth content. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even know what growth content is or that you should be posting it, that type of content, to actually grow your account. So whenever I see a gap in knowledge, whenever I see, that you need something like this, that there is a need for a masterclass like this, Eve comes to the rescue. And yeah, I recreated an incredible masterclass for you to help you create better and more growth content. So let me start sharing my screen with you so that we can dive straight into the presentation, Content That Attracts, the simple strategy to create content that grows your Instagram following. A masterclass by myself, growth coach Eve Longfield. Now, the reason why you are here is probably because you're posting every day, or you're posting every other day, or a couple of times a week, but you're still not growing. You feel like you've tried everything, but growth is just not happening. Your content is not attracting new followers. And, what is the reason? Why are you not growing? And why are other people around you growing super fast? Now, you could be missing this key piece because a lot of people focus on the wrong thing when they're trying to grow. In all honesty, I think 99% of people just throw spaghetti at the wall, post and pray, and think like, okay, hopefully this next reel is going to go viral and it's going to take off. And then I'm finally going to get the growth that I deserve. You won't. It's not how it works. And that's what's keeping you stuck. So today you are going to be learning all about attracting new followers with the right type of content, growth content. So first of all, we'll discuss what growth content actually is. Then we'll move on to talking about the three types of growth content that attract new followers. So there are three types of growth content that you should be posting to really pull in those new followers. Then I'll be sharing the very simple but very effective and important formula with you that makes content really pull those people in effortlessly. I'll also explain the three things that you shouldn't be doing, the three things that really make or break your growth content. Plus, I'll be sharing one of my favorite mindset shifts that will change how you post forever. It's such an important one. Well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We'll get to that at the end of this masterclass. But first, why should you listen to me? Because I'm going to be telling you a lot of things inside this masterclass. But if you don't really know me, or if you're watching one of my masterclasses for the first time, you might be like, who is this chick and what is she on about? And why does she preach that she knows Instagram growth so well? I'm going to be telling you that exactly. So, my name is Eve. I help business owners and creators grow on Instagram without relying on luck, hacks, or outdated strategies. Like, Instagram growth isn't luck. You don't want to just go viral. You need to have a good strategy and keep it simple, right? Like, simplicity is also my middle name. Now, personally, I've grown not one, but two accounts to 195,000 followers. My Eve Longfield account, the account that you found me on. And I also have another account called Sydney Guide, which I've grown to 237,000 followers. And both accounts are still growing steadily. Plus, I've helped thousands of business owners and creators do the same. So when my clients use my strategies, they increase their reach, their visibility, and very importantly, I help them turn content into conversions and or brand deals. Like one of my clients, she started a new account in September. Right now, when I'm filming this, it's March, and she's already landed 5 or 6 brand deals from that brand new account. So that's absolutely amazing, and that's what really fills my cup doing this work. Now, I'm also part of Meta's creator program. That means that every 2 weeks, sometimes every 3 weeks, I attend a webinar by Meta, by someone who actually works for Instagram, where she teaches us all the ins and outs and all the latest on Instagram. Plus, I've been invited to Meta's headquarters here in Sydney. So I've actually gone to Instagram, to Facebook, to Meta, to Threads. It's all the same. 3 times, and including the last time I was allowed to speak on stage. You can see that here in the third photo. So the first photo you see is me in August 2024. The second photo is me in December 2024. And then the third photo is February 2025, where I was even asked to speak on stage at Instagram's headquarters, which was absolutely exciting and definitely a career highlight so far. Now, today I'm going to show you how to create content that actually gets you growth so that you finally start gaining all the followers that you deserve. And my middle name is no fluff, no hacks, just real strategy that works. Like, I don't give you short-term solutions. I don't give you quick hacks that might help you, gain a few followers here and there. That's not what I'm about. I'm about to give you long-term, evergreen, sustainable growth. So let's go. So, part one, what is growth content? Growth content is also known as attraction content or top of funnel content. And this is content designed to bring in new people to your account. So, when we talk about content, we talk about reels, we talk about carousels, and we talk about static photo posts, single photo posts. Now, growth content is not just about getting engagement or going viral. Like, yes, if you go viral, you will grow if you do things right. These days, actually, going viral doesn't even mean you grow anymore. But going viral is not the goal because you want to gain the right followers, right? You don't want to go viral, have like millions of people find you, follow you, but then if they're not your ideal follower, pretty worthless. So that's not what we focus on here. We focus on reaching non-followers and then turning those non-followers into followers. Now, there are three main content types. The first one is growth content that brings in new followers. So that's really built for discovery and really optimized and focused on non-followers. And of course, we're going to be talking about this type of content inside this entire masterclass. But it's good to know that there are also two other types of content, which is nurture content. Nurture content really builds connection with existing followers and deepens trust and keeps them engaged. So that's really for your existing audience. Once you have brought those followers in, you want to keep them, right? And that's what nurture content does. But then there's also sales content. So nurture content also warms people up towards sales content. Sales content is really focused on action and conversions. It's really created to sell an offer, a product or a service, or if you are a content creator, paid brand deals. Now, I created this easy little visual for you so that you can easily see what the three different types of content are if you ever need to refer back to it. So feel free to take a photo of this with your phone so that you always have this handy whenever you need it. Now, you need all three types of content to grow and sell on Instagram. But if you're not posting enough or not posting the right growth content, then you're not going to bring in new people. So it all starts with growth content. Now, I want to introduce you to the stranger test. And this is something that you are going to be remembering from now on for the rest of your Instagram journey, because this is gold. So if you want to know if your content is actually growth content, like how you can actually know this, is by asking yourself the following question. Would a complete stranger care about this post? So you post something, or actually you got to do this obviously before you post something. You're about to post a reel or a carousel. It's growth content. Ask yourself the question, would a complete stranger, someone who has never seen you before, never heard about you before, would they care about this post? Now, obviously, only if they're your ideal follower, right? Because if I post something about Instagram growth, but no one wants to learn about growing on Instagram, they're not going to care. If I post a reel on my other account, Sydney Guide, about beautiful things to do in Sydney, but people never even have the desire to visit Australia, then they're not going to care, right? So would a complete stranger, who is your ideal follower, who is your target audience, would they care about this post? Now, if the answer is no, then it's not growth content, because growth content is made for new people, not just your existing followers. And it should be instantly understandable without needing backstory or context. So this is really something that you have to, keep in mind and print in your mind forever. People know nothing about you. You have to assume that in your growth content that people know nothing about you. So you can't refer to something that your followers know about. You can't build on something. You can't assume, like when I post a reel, I can't just automatically assume that everyone knows, like, hey, that's Eve Longfield. She's an Instagram growth coach. Like, she has 2 accounts with such and such many followers. No, my followers will probably know that, and not even everyone. But new people have no idea who I am. So whenever I share something, that should be instantly understandable without needing backstory or context. Context. Also, it should give value. Value, very important here. Very important with growth content, whether that's insight, inspiration, education, or entertainment. And we're going to be talking about value more in this masterclass. So let's park that for now and let's move on to the next thing. So, the 3-point growth content check. How to know if your content will actually bring in new followers. How to know if your content is actually designed to bring in new followers. So before you hit post, I want you to check if your content ticks these 3 boxes, all 3 of them. So the first one is instantly understandable. So if a stranger who is your ideal follower saw this piece of content, would they get it? Like in 2 seconds, would they get it? Would they get it straight away? Would they understand it? Would they read it and be like, oh, yep, you got me? So if you use terms that they don't understand, or jargon, or difficult words, or if you don't speak to them, they won't get it. So growth content has to be easily and instantly understandable. Now, next to that, it has to be engaging and shareable. So it's not going to help you grow if no one engages with your content, right? Because your content is only going to get pushed further by the algorithm if it's good content, if people engage with it. In case you don't know, that's how the algorithm works. As soon as you post a piece of content, the algorithm grabs that piece of content, tries to find out what that piece of content is about so that it knows, who it is for. Then it starts showing it to a very small group of your followers and a very small group of your non-followers. And then if they engage, then Instagram is going to push it further, 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 further. Snowball effect. That's eventually how you get a high performing reel. So always ask yourself, is there anything inside this post that makes people want to like, share, or save it? Saves are not super important. The algorithm doesn't really care that much about saves. Likes and shares are more important, and watch time for reels and carousels is even more important. But it has to be engaging in some sort of way, right? It doesn't always have to be shareable. Don't try to make every single post shareable because then you'll burn out because it's really hard to constantly create shareable posts, but it has to be engaging in some way. Now, number 3 is that it has to position you as an authority. Does this post make people see you as someone worth following? Because you're not just going to follow anyone who posts about a topic that you're interested in, right? It has to be someone where you're like, oh, okay, this person knows what she's talking about, or oh, this person is super hilarious when it comes to that and that, or oh, this person is super inspirational about this certain topic that I want to learn more about. So here are some examples of good versus bad growth content. So a weak growth post is a post that does not attract new followers. It's too personal, or it's super niche specific. It doesn't have a clear takeaway, doesn't have any value. It's about you, not about them. And it doesn't really have a hook to grab attention. So I found a reel here as an example of a girl who's dancing with her best friend, which is like, it's a very lovely video, very high energy, positive vibes. I like the video, but it says, if you can't break it down like a gangster with your bestie, then what's the point? And she, I think she's like a social media coach or something, doesn't relate to her niche. I, don't really care about her and her bestie. I want to learn about social media growth, not about her dancing with her bestie. And it's really, really personal. That's not a growth post. It has 17 likes, probably from her followers, but hardly any shares, hardly any comments. Bad, bad, bad growth post, not a growth post. Even as nurture content, I wouldn't be posting this because it shouldn't be about you. It should never be about you. Fine if you want to post something like that in your stories once or twice, but make your content about them. On the other hand, we have a strong growth post by yours truly. A post that attracts new followers. This post actually attracted, I think, about over 100 new followers, did really, really well because A, it's instantly understandable. Someone who sees this gets the post in 2 seconds. Because I say, don't make this mistake when share your reels to stories. Super, super simple, super basic, super simple info, yet so many people don't know this yet. And then I even show them a visual of what you shouldn't be doing. It's super clear that you shouldn't be covering your new reel when you post it to stories. So it's very, very engaging because I have a very clear hook, hooks them in straight away, I tell them what not to do. I talk to my ideal follower. Plus, I even show a visual And you can't see that here, but this is actually a reel where I lip sync. I lip sync a quote from Pitch Perfect when Rebel Wilson says, like, "Oh, sometimes I think I could do crystal meth, but then I think, better not." So it's also a funny, a funny lip sync. Lip syncs, therefore, I like to do lip syncs like these, and then apply them to yeah, something that I teach, because it's always super super engaging. And you see that a lot of people didn't know this. 123 people. Well, that's what you see here. The actual shares is always higher than what you see here, but 123 people shared that. They were like, "Whoa!" Shared it to a friend. Like, "Whoa! Did you know this?" Or, "Hey, I always see that you do this. You shouldn't be doing this anymore." Plus, I speak about something that a lot of people do that they shouldn't be doing. And also, not a lot of other Instagram coaches speak about this, because actually, some other Instagram coaches do this. A lot of business coaches do this. But because I take a different stance and I also explain why in the caption, I position myself as an authority. So people see me as someone to follow, which is why this reel gained me a lot of followers. Didn't even have that many views. If you can see, 52,000 views, which is great. Don't get me wrong. That's really, really great. But you don't have to go viral to gain new followers. In fact, you don't want to go viral. You want to create reels like these that, reach new people, and those new people will follow you. Common mistakes with growth content. So don't make the following mistakes. The first one that I see very, very often is that you go too much into your niche, that it's too niche specific. And I always say, and I preach this, like until the day I die, that specificity and micro, and that's incredibly important to grow on Instagram. You need to be really specific. But if you dive too deep into things that other people don't understand, then you're not going to speak to them. So, for example, if I start talking to you about Instagram's new API and how Instagram's API now allows you to use ManyChat funnels in a different, you're going to be like, "Sorry, Eve, what are you saying? What API? What are you talking about? Funnels? Like, what are you talking about?" Some people might understand it. If you have marketing background, if you know more about Instagram, about social media marketing, about digital marketing, Instagram marketing, but a lot of people don't know anything about that. So if I would use terms like those and say things like those in my hook or my reel, I'd lose people. If someone doesn't get it, they scroll past. Now the second one is no clear hook, and this is really basic Instagram knowledge by now, I think. And yet, still, so many people don't use a hook, or they use a super vague hook, or they think they're using a hook, but it's actually not a hook. Those first few words, they have to grab attention, and they have to spark curiosity. Someone is scrolling, and then they see your hook, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, okay, hold up. Let me stop scrolling, because this right here is something that I want to know more about." Mistake number 3 is talking to your followers instead of attracting new ones. And it's another classic one. Your content should be for people who don't know you yet. So your growth content, right? Not your nurture content, not your sales content. But when you create growth content, it should be for people who don't know you yet. Don't assume they know anything. Also, great growth content for me is when I say, "Oh, I grew 2 accounts, 295,000 followers and 237,000 followers." You might think that, "Oh, after a while, if I keep saying that, my followers are going to get so tired of that." Yeah, that's true. They might. But I still need to attract non-followers. I still need to grow my business and grow my account. So I'm going to keep talking about that, which, by the way, Instagram introduced trial reels for now. So you never have to bore your followers with anything anymore, because you can just simply post things like trial reels and leave them as trial reels forever, which is, it's the best feature Instagram has ever introduced. Yeah, well, anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about trial reels right now, because then we'll be here tomorrow. That's how much I love this feature. So let's go to point number 4. You don't post an engagement trigger. So you post something, a reel, carousel, or a static post, but there is no engagement trigger. So like a call to action, which I actually call call to activate, which is something that we'll be talking on later on about in this masterclass. It doesn't have any shareability. It doesn't need to have shareability, but it needs to have like some kind of like or comment or trigger that people do something about it, that they don't just, watch your content and then move on. You want them to do something, right? Like you want them to like it, you want them to comment, you want them to save or share, because the more engagement it gets, the more people see it, the more you'll grow with that piece of content. Number 5 is talking to everyone instead of talking to an individual. Oh man, I still see this so often. People are like, "Hey guys, okay, so you guys ask me, so what do you guys think?" Your message should feel like a direct convo, not a broadcast. You're talking to people one on one, and I really want you to start paying attention to this now in my content as well. I really want it to be, want you to see that it's a one-on-one conversation, even inside this masterclass. I'm not saying like, okay, so you guys are making these common mistakes. No, I say you are making these common mistakes. Also in my content, I always talk to you. When I post a new story on Monday, I don't say, hey everyone, hope you had a nice weekend. No, I say, hey friend, I hope you had a nice weekend. It's much more personal. And if you talk to someone directly, they will pay attention. Like naturally, they will pay more attention than when you talk to a group of people. If you walk down the street with a group of people and a stranger walks up to you and says, hey guys, then like I'm the one who steps aside and lets my friend answer. That's the type of person I am. But then someone else, I'm actually an introvert, you wouldn't really know that, but I actually really am. But then if someone walks up to a group of people and then they look at me and say, hey you, or can I ask you something, then they have your attention, right? So really important, talk to an individual. And number 6 is also an important one, talking to everyone instead of your perfect fit follower. If you're trying to reach everyone, you're reaching no one. You got to focus on your ideal audience. And people often think like, no, I need to, talk to like in my niche, to like a wide group of people, because the more people I talk to, the more people I can reach. So the more people that are going to follow me. Not true. Actually, opposite is true. The more specific you are, the better the right people will hear you and the more likely they are to start following you. So if you haven't already, niche down. So we arrived at part 2, the 3 types of growth content that attract new followers. Now, there are many, many types of growth content, but there are 3 very common ones that should be included in your growth strategy. And if you have been posting growth content, but you're still not really seeing any results, then it could be because you're using only one or maybe even none of these, or maybe even some of these. So the first one is trend-based growth content. Trend-based growth content leverages trends to reach new people faster. The second one is evergreen growth content that really keeps attracting new followers over time. And then the third one, we already briefly talked about this, is authority positioning growth content. It makes people see you as the go-to person to follow. And of course, I'm going to be explaining each of these in more depth. Starting with trend-based growth content. So jumping on trends is one of the fastest way to get in front of new people if you do it right. And before I start explaining to you what trend-based growth content actually is, don't be afraid that you have to start dancing on your reels, because you really don't. Jumping on trends can happen without you even showing your face if you don't want to. It means you don't have to dance. It doesn't mean like, don't be scared. Like jumping on trends can be really easy, really effortless, and also really, really fun. So trend-based growth content are trending sounds, trending formats, or trending topics. They work great because Instagram prioritizes fresh trending content and pushes that to non-followers. Instagram, like the way the algorithms work, or well, the algorithms work in many, many, many ways. But one of the things that the algorithm likes to do is to push fresh content. Usually not older than 3 days. And that doesn't mean that old content doesn't get pushed. Like if it's a really good piece of content, then old content can get pushed for months and months and months after. I have reels, like I literally just gained a follower from a reel that I posted in 2023. Like what? It's 2025 now, but anyway. But especially with new content, with fresh content, Instagram likes to push that. So this is great for fast visibility, but it won't sustain long-term growth on its own. Like you need a combination of the different types of growth content to really get that long-term growth content. If you always just rely on trends, then, it could happen that maybe 1 week there is not a trend for you to jump on. Then what are you going to post? Right? So you always need to have a mix. Examples of trend-based growth content are trending sounds like trending audios. You know that I share trending audios with you very often. So if you find a trending audio that you can apply to your niche, don't just copy like that trend, because that is a horrible thing to do. It always has to be relevant for your niche. Then that's a great thing to do. Trending audios, for me, work so well in bringing in new followers. Oh, they work so well. But jumping on a meme or a viral topic and then adding your own take to make it niche relevant can also work really well. Last year, was it already last year? Yeah. Season 2 of Squid Game came out. And there was this meme of the guy when he started the first Squid Game where he was like smiling and happy. And then there was this photo of him when he was really angry when he was going into the second Squid Game. Sorry if you haven't watched it yet. Huge spoiler. Sorry. But that was really popular. I even created like a template for that and told my followers like, hey, this is a great meme to jump on. This is how you can use it. And so many people did. So many people used it and got great results with it. Memes are very relatable. Plus, they're top of mind. So if someone has watched Squid Game and loved it, and then they're scrolling on Instagram and then they suddenly see your meme, Squid Game is still fresh in the back of their mind. So they're more easily stopped. Like you're stopping their scroll more easily if something like that is still, fresh in their mind. So that's why memes are absolutely great to jump on. Or a viral topic, and then adding your own take to make it niche relevant. If there's like a new invention or, it could honestly be anything, a viral topic, but that's a really good idea as well. Another example of a trend-based growth content is remixing a popular content format. So for example, if photo dump or storytelling carousels or viral tweet graphics, like when there is a certain content format you see a lot that people are doing a lot, like photo dump right now, for example, that's absolutely not trending anymore. But that was a little trend for a little while when people were like, oh, little photo dump from over the weekend, little photo dump of this or that. That was a trend for a while. So once you see something like that appearing on your feed, great, jump on it. Right now, there is a trend because I'm recording this when it's March 2025. So right now, it's exactly 5 years ago that the world started shutting down because of COVID. So there's now this trend that says like, oh, 5 years ago, the world started shutting down, and this girl or this boy, like you, me, then you tell like 3 little things of where you were 5 years ago, and then 3 things now, 2025, that changed. That's very popular trend right now. Great trend to jump on because it gives you a chance to share a little bit of personal stuff, which is good, for your relatability. But also it is a fantastic trend to share because it really positions you as an authority. 5 years ago, I was single, trying to make it as an influencer, but failing. And I didn't know where life would bring me. And then 5 years later, I have 2 super successful Instagram accounts, plus a multiple 6-figure business, plus I have a beautiful, beautiful partner now and a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful son. So that's really, really inspiring. So someone who, literally came from nothing, you could say, to creating like a super successful business, super successful Instagram business, like that really adds to my authority. So that trend was a great trend to jump on. Another good thing to do is to hop on seasonal trends like Black Friday, like a Black Friday marketing tip or an end of year industry reflection, when it's Christmas, when it's Easter, or Easter maybe not so much. If it's relevant to your industry, like jump on things like Mother's Day. That's actually a great idea to do, to just look online now and see like what special days are coming up, and then which special days of those days are relevant to you and your niche, and already start planning content around that. It's a very easy way to create content, and because people know like, oh, Christmas is coming, oh, Easter is coming. Oh, in Australia, at the end of June, the end of the financial year is coming. It's a really good idea to leverage the fact that that's top of mind. I'm just going to take a quick sip of tea. Now, there are a few common mistakes that people make with trends. First of all, you shouldn't just be copying trends without adding original value because you'll just blend in with everyone else. And this happens so often. Maybe in some niches more than in other niches, but personally, I always engage with a lot of content about motherhood. And once I see like a funny viral reel about motherhood or like some that really emotionally touches you, I then see the exact same thing from five different creators. And first of all, it's just not like an ethical thing to do or like a nice thing to do, to just one-on-one copy someone. It's actually a horrible thing to do. But also it makes you look bad because people who follow those original creators, they will know that you have copied it. So that just makes you look a bit sad. So don't copy trends without adding original value. Plus, you need to apply it to you and your niche and your brand and your account. Which brings me to the second point. You shouldn't be jumping on trends that don't align with your brand. If you post random content, you'll get a random audience. This is something that still happens so much because when you go viral, when this happens, and now might think like, oh, going viral, that's great. No, it's not great. Because actually spoke to a girl the other day and she's like, yeah, I had a really viral trial reel, but it only brought me like 200 new followers. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. What was the reel about? And she told me that it was about her traveling and then or in a helicopter or something, and then she had to vomit. And that went really, really viral. But then when I looked at her account was more about like traveling with kids. Completely different things. People will have a laugh about the fact that you vomited in a helicopter versus people who want to learn about traveling with kids are two completely different things. So that's why people just didn't follow her. They saw that video, made them laugh, but it wasn't really related to her and her niche. Also, didn't really position her as an authority. But like not every post has to be an authority post. But if it doesn't relate to your niche, you are not going to grow. Now, another thing you shouldn't be doing is relying only on trends for growth, because when the trend dies, your reach disappears. And this is also something that I already briefly mentioned in the previous slide. You don't want to be just posting trends, because what if one week there's not going to be a trend for you to rely on? You're not going to have anything to post. You're going to panic. The algorithm is going to be like, oh my God, you're not posting. You're inconsistent. You don't want to do that. So if you really want to make trends work for you, then pick trends that actually fit your niche and your message. Add your own unique spin. You can always use my easy reel ideas. Like about every week, I share a reel with an easy reel idea. I say, hey, here's an audio that you can use. This is how you can use it. This is the hook you can use. Like I make it so easy for you. Add your own unique spin. And then combine trends with evergreen and authority content so that your growth actually lasts. Which brings me to evergreen growth content. So, evergreen growth content are posts that keep bringing in new followers. So, where trend based content is great for fast reach, evergreen growth content is great for long term consistent growth. So, evergreen growth content is content that stays relevant over time and continues to bring in new followers even weeks or months later. It's not time dependent, it's not trend dependent. It's not like that Squid Game meme, for example, that brought me a lot of engagement when I posted it, but Squid Game is not top of mind anymore unless like a new season comes out. But if it's not relevant anymore, then it just doesn't help you anymore. So you got to post content that stays relevant over time. That's evergreen content and continues to bring in new followers even weeks or months later. Now, this type of content works because Instagram pushes valuable content that keeps getting engagement even after the initial post date. And again, the example that I just gave you of my reel that brought in a follower, that reel from 2023, even though it's 2025. Whoa. But I also have a reel that really performed really, really well that I posted 2 months ago. 2 months ago. But it's still getting a lot of shares because it's incredibly relatable to my target audience. So that reel is still 2 months later bringing me followers every single day because it's evergreen. It's about business owners struggling to grow on Instagram, which will be which is you, which will be relevant for years and years to come. And, it shows like 2 months later, still gaining me lots and lots of new followers. But this kind of content is also the content that positions you as the expert and then brings in the right audience, right? Because you don't want random followers. You want the right followers, and you want people who want to follow you, who want to learn from you, who want to see your content, who want to laugh with you, or whatever the type of value is that you're going for. And we'll get to that soon. Examples of evergreen growth content are very simple type of posts, like how-to posts or tutorials or simple myth busting, or simple like, if you want A, do C, not B. For example, if you want to grow, don't use hacks but go for sustainable growth. Like simple reels like that, or content ideas like that. Educational carousels that break down key concepts of your business, they are great too. Whenever I post an educational carousel, it always performs well. Yesterday I posted one about the algorithm, performed well. A few days ago I posted one about an engagement strategy you shouldn't be using, performed well. Educational carousels about not trending topics in your industry, but just that break down key concepts in your industry, in your niche, always do well. Or controversial or opinion-based posts that spark conversation and keep resurfacing. That's also a good one. For example, the one that I showed you before about how you shouldn't be sharing your reel to stories with a big story sticker on it, like hiding it. It's an opinion-based post. I say that is a terrible idea, even though there's so many people who do it and actually teach you to do that, because, oh, it sparks curiosity. No, it doesn't. Keeps resurfacing. People keep, like that always keeps working. I do have to make one note here, and that is that a strong keyword strategy is crucial for evergreen growth content. Now, the reason I say this is because your content can also end up in search results. In case you didn't know, Instagram is also a search engine, and every day more and more people start using Instagram as a search engine. I think it's already, top of my head, I think it's already 38% of users use Instagram to search for things. So they don't go on Google anymore. No, they go on Instagram to search for things. And you probably have too. Like if you are traveling and you want to get travel inspiration or fashion inspiration, or if you want to eat at a local restaurant, first thing you probably do is try to find that on Instagram. So in order for you to appear in search results, you got to have a strong keyword strategy, because otherwise Instagram can't understand what your content is about. In order for Instagram to, and this actually is about growth or about your content in general, in order for Instagram to be able to push your content to the right people, Instagram has to understand what that content is about. And it's your job to tell it. And you got to do that using keywords. So keywords are absolutely, absolutely crucial for evergreen growth content. Also for other types of growth content, 100%. But I would say, or I would argue, the most crucial for evergreen. Common mistakes people make with evergreen growth content are using too much industry jargon. If a new person doesn't get it, they scroll past. A little while ago, actually, I see this so often. I see this, I don't know why, but especially with trauma coaches who are like, oh, I'm helping you resolve trauma by doing this and this and this. And then there's this new technique that's got this really fancy name that I've never heard of. That's not going to land with people. People who have trauma, they don't know what they need. They don't know that they need that specific type of therapy. People who have trauma know that they have trauma. They know how that trauma presents itself or exposes itself, or how that trauma comes out of them. To say, sorry, English is not my native language, and sometimes I struggle to say things like the way that they appear in my head. But they know how that trauma presents itself, but they don't know the solution. So you shouldn't be saying like, oh, you need the blah, blah, blah therapy. No, you should say like, hey, do you recognize these and these symptoms? I have a solution. You know what I mean? So if you say like, oh, 5 benefits of blah, blah, blah therapy. Yeah, if people don't even know that they need that therapy, then they're not going to stop the scroll, right? But the same with the example I gave you earlier. If I say like, oh, Instagram's API is acting up. You're like, what? Instagram's API? Or if I say, if you don't know anything about marketing and sales, like, well, if you want to increase your ROI, yeah, return on investment. If you're a marketer, you know that. If you're in digital marketing, Instagram marketing, any type of marketing, sales, you know that. But if you're not, then you don't know that. So you got to make sure that you don't use jargon, you don't use words that your ideal audience may not understand. Another mistake is that you don't mix evergreen content with trend-based content. So if all your posts expire quickly, you'll always be chasing the next trend. You don't want to do that, and you don't want to risk having no trend one week and then nothing to post. Another mistake that people make with evergreen growth content is making every post too personal or very time sensitive. Personal stories and trend based content are great, but you've got to mix them with evergreen content that keeps bringing in new people long after the trend dies. And personal stories, if you want to share personal stories, that's fine, as long as you always relate them to your ideal followers. Like, you don't care that, I just posted some meta ads. I've been experimenting with ads and I failed. Like, I spent $250 burning money. But you don't really care about that. But then if I say, like, here is how you can avoid this, hey, I make it about you. It's not personal anymore. It's not just about me anymore. Like, oh, fuck, I did some meta ads and they just didn't perform and I spent $250. You're like, well, that's shit for you, Eve, but why do I care? If I then say, oh, here is how you can avoid these mistakes, you're like, oh, I'm all ears, right? So you always got to apply it to your ideal follower. Now, if you want to make evergreen growth content work for you, you got to balance it with trends and time sensitive posts so that you can get both fast reach and long term discovery. You got to think about posts that still make sense in 3 to 6 months. But that doesn't mean that you should avoid trend sensitive topics completely. But for evergreen content, it has to still make sense in 3, 6, maybe even a year from now. And also, don't forget to repurpose or repost your best evergreen posts. If something worked months ago, if something was valuable months ago, or even a year ago, it might still be now. And especially with trial reels, repurpose and repost as much as you like. Next, authority growth content. So authority growth content are the posts that make people follow you instantly. They help you position yourself as the expert or the go-to in your industry. Authority positioning growth content is content that positions you as that go-to person in your niche. And it really makes non-followers feel like they need to follow you for more. Like, oh, this is good. I want to follow her because she already gave me such a great piece of advice or really hit the nail on the head here. I want to know more. I want to learn more. It really establishes credibility, trust, and expertise without needing a huge audience. And this is also one of those misconceptions that I just want to get rid of once and for all. You don't need a huge audience. You just need the right audience. You want people to follow you for your credibility, for you, because they want to follow you, not because you're, trying to lure them in or because you went viral. And because people who don't follow you, like, who are not like all in following you, they're not going to engage with you. And then eventually they're going to be ghost followers, which is bad for your account. We just don't want that. Examples of authority positioning growth content are bold opinion posts. So your take on industry trends or myths. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I actually do this all the time. Like, don't make this mistake in your stories. Or I say, oh, there's this growth content strategy that everyone, or this growth strategy that everyone talks about, how you should be engaging with accounts in your niche. Like 9 out of 10 Instagram coaches say that that's a great strategy. It's a horrible strategy. Wastes your time. Don't do it. So what is, there in your niche that you do in a certain way that the rest doesn't do? Like, what opinion do you have that others don't? I was talking to another one of my followers the other day, and she's an interior designer. One of my clients, actually, she's an interior designer, and she posted that the dark window trend, yeah, it's not doing anything for you because it's a trend and it will fade, and then you have dark windows. While like a lot of other people in her niche right now are saying like, oh yeah, this is great. You should get the dark windows because it's, trending and blah and beautiful. And she's like, nah, don't do it. Because it's just a trend. And then, you're just going to end up with these dark windows. She had a bit of backlash on it. Always, when you share a bold opinion, always get backlash. But also when you share a popular opinion, you'll get backlash. So it's just the way the people on the internet work. But bold opinion posts are very, very powerful. Another good example of authority positioning growth content is explaining industry facts from your own unique perspective. So when you apply it to you and your knowledge and your experience, or just from your own perspective. If you look at my account again, I explain interim growth my way. I explain it in a simple way. I explain it in a relatable way. I explain it in a sustainable way. So what are some things in your industry that everyone talks about that you can talk about from your own unique perspective? And can you share behind the scenes or personal experience posts that really show your expertise? So when I say I've grown 2 accounts to 195,000 followers and 237,000 followers, boom, there you go. But also when I promote trial reels, I have a trial reels training that I'm promoting. I say, whoa, I posted a trial reel and it got 1.2 million followers, boom. Also, behind the scenes, when I got invited to Meta, every time I get invited to Meta's headquarters here in Sydney, you bet I'm going to be sharing a lot of stories about that, because that really, strengthens my position as an authority in my niche. Like, whoa, Eve got invited to Instagram, like the actual Instagram, the actual head office in Australia. She got invited. She got asked to speak on stage. Whoa. Eve must be a good Instagram coach. And of course, other authority positioning growth content are case studies or client wins or proof based posts that demonstrate real results. So if you ever worked with someone, if you ever, you know, even if you're like a travel content creator and you went somewhere and you saved a lot of money, even saying like, oh, I traveled for 6 months with only $10,000 in my bank account, like that's also authority content if that's your niche, obviously. So anything that can prove that you walk the walk and that you talk the talk. Common common mistakes people make with authority content is being too neutral or generic. You got to have like strong positioning and strong opinions. Only posting like tips without sharing personal proof, perspective, or why. If I say, okay, so if you want to grow on Instagram, you should post 5 times a week. You should use hashtags, and you should do this, and you should do that. And you're like, okay, Eve, but anyone could have told me that. Like these are basic Instagram one-on-one facts. Even though basic Instagram one-on-one facts that's not bad growth content. But if I don't share personal proof or perspective, if I don't say, well, like the reason why you got to use hashtags is because hashtags function as keywords and they help the algorithm understand what your content is about. Boom. The third mistake is thinking you need to be an expert to post authority content. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to be one step ahead of your ideal follower. And this is something that I really want you to hear, because this is somewhere where a lot of people go wrong. When I started as an Instagram coach, which is now almost 2 years ago, I wasn't the best Instagram coach out there. There were many Instagram coaches who were better and more experienced Instagram coaches than I was. But that didn't stop me, did it? First, I started focusing on people who were just one step behind me. Like I was one step ahead of my ideal follower. So that's the type of content I started posting. Pretty simple content. Definitely not as deep or as strategic as the content that I post now. But it gave me a lot of followers. And now, yeah, now I am definitely the best Instagram coach there is, without a doubt. No better person to learn from than me. That's not arrogance. That's just knowing my genius. But don't think that you need to be an expert. But however, having said that, you do need to practice what you preach, right? I see so many people want to become Instagram coaches and say like, oh, I'm helping you grow on Instagram, and they have 100 followers. Now, of course, you can then target people who have 99 followers, but that's not really realistic, is it? So in that case, you could say like, okay, helping you set up an Instagram account to get off to a good start. If that's, for example, your focus, not growth, but like the basics of an Instagram account, setting it up. For example, I'm just riffing here. But you don't need to be an expert to post. You also don't need to have qualifications necessarily to post. If you, for example, one of my incredibly beautiful clients, Kate, she is a bariatric weight loss coach because she is a lived experience coach, right? She did the surgery. She lost a whole human of weight. It's insane how much she lost. And now she coaches other people to do the same. She doesn't have any like papers or qualifications to help people with weight loss, but because she has had so many like years of experience doing this herself and knowing what happens inside the mind and how hard it is and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that makes her an incredible coach, an incredible coach. So when you post authority content, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to be one step ahead of your ideal follower. Now, how to make authority content work for you. Share your experiences, lessons, and unique perspectives. Don't be afraid to take a stand because authority comes from confidence. And like I said, if you take a stand, you are going to receive some backlash. There are always going to be people who disagree with you, especially people in your niche who feel threatened by you, who did things different than you. If you say like, oh, everyone says you need to do A, but I think you need to do B, then those people who do A, they're going to come for you. But that's fine. Doesn't matter, does it? Let them come because you know you're right. As long as you know you're right. And then combine authority content with trend-based and evergreen content for a well-rounded growth strategy. Now, I want to ask you, can you remember a time where you engaged with someone that you didn't follow and then you checked out more of their posts, you actually looked at their profile, but then you ended up not following them? Can you remember why? Personally, I hardly follow anyone these days, honestly. Someone has to really be really good at what they do for me to follow them. But can you remember a time where you engaged with someone you didn't follow, checked out more of their posts, but ended up not following them, and why? And that why, I really want you to focus on that why. What is the reason that you didn't follow them? Wasn't it, authoritative enough? Or was it all like a little bit like the same, like everyone else was saying? They didn't take a different stand. And then, think about why you didn't follow them and try to do that differently yourself. So you need all types of growth content. Trend-based, evergreen, and authority content work together for growth. Trend-based content gets you quick bursts of reach and visibility. Evergreen growth content keeps bringing in new followers long after you post, and authority growth content positions you as the go-to person so people follow and trust you. And this is really important. Like the authority one, I just want to say it one more time, is so important, especially in this day and age when people have become so, like, they hit the follow button so sparingly. Back in the days, it was easy to grow. You're getting lots of new followers every day, viral, whatever. It was all honestly pretty easy, but people don't hit that follow button anymore. In fact, lots of people are now really curating their following lists. They're really looking at who they're following and like, nah, don't really align with this anymore. Nah, don't really like that person. Well, I do like that person, but she also posts about it and she does it better. So I'm just going to unfollow this one. You really need to be the go-to person so people follow and trust you. If you only post trend-based content, then you get fast reach, but no long-term growth. If you only do evergreen, then you might have long-term reach, but not really immediate momentum. Plus, if you only post authority content, then people might respect you, but you just won't attract as many new followers. So mix all three types to get fast reach, long-term discovery, and strong positioning. Don't rely on trends too much. Make sure that you're also posting things that keep working for you, and pay attention. Test different formats and topics to see what resonates best with your audience, and experiment with trial reels. Oh, honestly, I keep saying this, but this feature is gold. You can test as many things as you want. Like every crazy, brilliant idea that pops into your head, test it with trial reels, and you'll be surprised to learn what works and what doesn't. Honestly, use this feature because it's absolute gold. Part 3, the growth content formula. There is a simple 3-part formula for growth content that attracts new followers. And first of all, yes, I'm going to be talking about hook. And I know that we all know that hook, value, call to action. Oh, we've all heard it before. Most of us know the drill. But do you? Because if you know the drill and if you know that this is the simple 3-part formula for content that attracts new followers, why are you watching this? And why are you not just attracting hundreds of new followers a day? Because it's not as easy as it sounds. Yes, it sounds basic. Yes, it sounds easy. Hook, value, CTA, done. But there's actually an art to it, which is exactly what I'm going to teach you right now. So a hook stops the scroll and grabs attention instantly. Value delivers something useful like an insight, education, inspiration, or entertainment. And then your call to activate is the third part. And now you might be like, okay, why, Eve, do you call it call to activate and not call to action? And if, marketing is not your middle name, then you might not know this. A call to action is something that you add to the end of a post. It's like an action that you want people to take, right? Like, oh, follow me or like this post or whatever. But I think call to actions are boring. I think everyone is doing them and I think everyone's doing them wrong. And it's not about telling people what to do. It's about naturally compelling them to take action. So why call to activate instead of call to action? So people don't want to be told what to do anymore. We're not like, if you say follow, it's not like, okay, I'll follow. No, people engage when they feel naturally pulled into the conversation, when they feel naturally inclined to, when they feel like, oh, if I watch something and if it's a shit post and it says save this post, I'm like, well, I'm not going to save this post because it's a shit post. Why would I save it? But if it's a really valuable, good post, I'm like, wow, I really want to get back to that later. I'll hit save. So when people, when something resonates really deeply, then people naturally respond or comment or share or follow. The best activations happen organically, like continuing a conversation, not following an instruction, like follow for more or save this post for later or whatever. It's an instruction. It's just like, I want you to do this right now. No, I'm not going to do that. Who are you to tell me what to do? So it needs to be like activating and it needs to happen more naturally, which is exactly what I'm going to teach you here. And please remember, call to activate, you heard it here first, just so you know. So examples of weak versus strong activation prompts are like a weak one is drop a fire emoji in the comments if you agree, or like this post for part 2, follow for more. Like, grab your phone, start scrolling to your reels. You'll see so many people use these boring, generic activation prompts. Instead, try to let it spark engagement effortlessly. For example, if you post a reel about a drop in engagement, say, have you noticed a drop in your engagement too? Or what's your go-to strategy for such and such and such, or getting more reach? What is your favorite way to blah, 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 blah? If I share a reel about some mistakes, like, oh, which one of these mistakes have you made before? Or which one surprised you the most? Or if you post like an unpopular opinion, hot take, I'd love to know, do you agree or do you see it differently? Have a look at my posts. I always do this and I always get engagement. Always. If I do this, because I don't do it on every post, because some posts, like I don't need comments or anything. I know what to post, what will get like natural good engagement. If I post an easy real idea, for example, I don't ask a question like this because I know that I don't need to, because everyone will save and share it anyway. But the other day, I posted a reel about how the algorithm has changed. And then I said, have you noticed a drop in your engagement too? Or when I posted about this growth strategy, which was a terrible strategy, I say like, oh, did you use this strategy? Or actually, I think I said like, oh, what takes up most of your time when it comes to Instagram growth? People love talking about themselves. This is something that you also have to remember in everything you do. People are obsessed with giving their opinion. People are obsessed with talking about themselves. So if you ask someone to share their experience, of course, it has to be something that they want to share their experience on. I mean, if you are a trauma coach, you're not going to say like, "Oh, so tell me about your trauma. What was the worst thing you experienced?" Then I don't think anyone's going to comment. Of course, it has to be suitable. But people love talking about themselves. Try to relate it to your follower and then ask a question that really gets them to lean in, that activates them, and that gets the conversation started. And these are mainly comment, how do you call it? Prompts for comments. But also when you ask someone to share something, share this post with a friend who is doing this wrong. Like that reel, what I posted about what you shouldn't be doing on your stories. Don't hide your reels on stories. Share this with a friend who always hides their reels on their stories. Boom. Now, the hook. I know, the hook. We've been talking about the hook for so long, and still people don't get it right. But not you. Not anymore after watching this. People scroll fast. If your hook isn't strong, then nothing else matters. There are three types of hooks. The first hook is visual hooks. So visual hooks are what they see first. So these can be big gestures of facial expressions. A very popular one at the moment is when people look at something and then do like, look at my, like if you want to look at me right now on the screen like this. Or like this. You see that a lot right now because if someone is like, oh, like that, like instantly you're like, oh, what's going on? Why is she looking like that? What's she staring at? What's happening? That's why it's a very, very popular visual hook. Just make sure that if you do that, that you actually have something, like you hook them in, then you got to give them what you hook them in with, right? So if you do like, oh, it has to be something good. You can't be like, oh, I just ate an apple. Gonna be like, oh, I just gained 500 new followers with this new Instagram feature. That's much stronger and authoritative, by the way. Movement is a good idea anyway. Movement catches the eye. So what you'll see in a lot of my reels is that I walk into the screen like this. If you want to look at the little screen again, like I appear from outside the frame and then I walk into the frame. That's a good one. Opening a laptop, taking off your glasses, like anything like that. Those are good visual hooks as well. Eye contact with the camera can be good, even though for me personally, eye contact is pretty hard because my eyes look in different, in opposite directions. But if you really, if you sit down and bam, and look at the camera and then directly address your follower, sit down on a couch, boom, this is what you've been doing wrong with such and such. Oh, good hook. Very strong. Text on screen is also a visual hook. Of course, that's a text hook, but if you have bold text with different colors, like highlight the most important part, that's also a very, very good visual hook. Another good visual hook, I don't know if you've seen them, but there are these hooks that that you see like a different movie, like a different video clip first. Like a very popular one was someone like rolling off a bed, or someone who was like skating and then he was about to hit a wall, and then you quickly transition to yourself doing the same gesture, and that's the visual hook. I've also done a visual hook where you see someone with a baseball bat and they're about to hit this white ball, and this white ball flies straight into the screen. So you're watching and you're like, whoa, because it's coming straight at you. And then I grab a ball, like I have a ball that I pick up and I'm like, oh, that got you right. So there are different types of visual hooks. I'll actually, because now I realize that now I'm explaining this might not be super clear. So I'll link a few reels in the lesson description of this masterclass so that you can actually take a look at those type of reels that that I'm talking about. So those are really good visual hooks as well. Audio hooks. Audio hooks are important too. What they hear first matters too. So you want to jump straight to the point. Never start your reel, even your stories, with "Hey guys," or "Hi, how are you?" Because then you lost everyone. Also on an Instagram live, you see people on an Instagram live, "Hey, you're just waiting for everyone to join. Let's see, is everyone on here? Are we good to go? Can we start now? Okay, waiting a few more minutes. Well, the thing is, in your replay, if people are going to watch the replay of your live, they're gone. But if you start your live with a strong hook, today we're going to be talking about the 3 things that are stopping you from growing on Instagram. Boom. Hooking them in. Another good audio hook is, have you noticed a drop in engagement too? Like asking a question, or of course, using trending sounds strategically. Because trending sounds, trending audios are a really, really good audio hook, especially when something is trending. People are like, hey, I've heard this before. You know, it's kind of the same as with the memes. It's on top of mind. People have heard it before. They know the trend. They know what's coming. So they're like, oh, heard this before, recognize it. And that stops the scroll. Now, hook number 3 are text hooks. Of course, we all know all about text hooks. What they read first matters. Text hooks need to make them curious. So, for example, you say, stop doing this if you want more reach. Oh, I do want more reach. What is this? This she's referring to. Or call out a problem, call out something they are doing. The number 1 mistake that is killing your engagement and how to fix it. Oh, my engagement is indeed really bad. There's a mistake I'm making. She's also going to share how to fix it. That's the curious part again. Or use numbers. Numbers and percentages and stuff like that always works great as well. This one change got me 500 new followers in a week. It's called Trial Reels, by the way. You're welcome. Number 2, value. A good hook grabs attention, but value makes people stay. Value can be divided up in 4 parts, and I like to call these the 4 E's of value. So the first one is educational. Your reel or your content teaches something useful or solves a problem. For example, here's how to fix your reach in 3 simple steps. A lot of my content is very educational. It's not hard to see. You know, if you watch one of my reels, you'll almost always learn something. Another very big, important part of value, but oh, by the way, just want to say you don't have to do all of these, right? You can do one of them and still have a very successful Instagram account, but every post you post needs to have at least one of these 4. So the second one is entertaining. Entertaining content keeps them engaged through humor or storytelling or relatable moments, even, you know, like the ones that kind of make you cry. For example, oh, you spent 3 hours on a reel and got 200 views. Or I personally love watching entertaining motherhood things, you know, moms who just, yeah, post these funny things that their kids do. Number 3 is empowering. Empowering content is also super valuable. Empowering content makes people feel motivated and inspired or understood, less alone. For example, like, this is your sign to stop overthinking and just post. Number 4 is engaging. Engaging content sparks conversation and interaction and really gets people talking. So, for example, a hot take. Engagement isn't the most important metric. Thoughts? Now, how to know if your content actually delivers value? You might be like, well, I think I'm posting valuable content, Eve, but I'm not really sure. Is it? Or I don't know. Ask yourself this question. Would my ideal follower save, share, like, or comment on this? Would your ideal follower take action? Now, if the answer is no, then it's probably not valuable enough. Now, again, not every post that you post needs to have all these 4 E's. It only needs to have one. And it's also not that you need to be posting a mix of this. If your thing is to just post funny, entertaining content, 100% fine. If you are someone who just posts empowering content and doesn't post anything educational or entertaining, totally fine. If you go hard on the educational content, I just heard something there. It's nothing. If you go hard on the educational content, but you never post anything entertaining or empowering because that's just not your thing, totally fine. As long as every single piece of growth content that you post is either educational or entertaining or empowering or engaging. It has to have one of these 4 E's. Because if it doesn't, then it's not good growth content. The call to activate. Let's talk a little bit more about the call to activate. So your hook grabs attention, your value keeps them there, but your call to activate makes them take action, activates them. So a strong activation prompt doesn't tell people what to do, it makes them want to respond. It creates an open conversation, not a command, and it feels like a natural part of the post, not an afterthought. It's not like a random, like, oh, follow for more. Whoa, where did that come from? So, 3 ways to naturally activate engagement is 1, ask a genuine question. Have you noticed this happening too? What is your experience with this? What do you think? Number 2, spark curiosity. So, I'm curious, do you agree or do you see it differently? And number 3 is make it feel personal. If you say something like, oh, I used to struggle with this. Does this sound familiar? Do you feel this too? Make it feel personal, but also make them feel understood. Like I said, people love talking about themselves. They really do. So if you ask a question like this, people are going to respond. What you don't want is forced activation. You don't want to make it feel pushy or unnatural. Like I said, drop a fire emoji in the comments if you agree. Like this post for part 2. That is just, you might as well just not have a call to action or a call to activate. Make it natural. What is your go-to strategy for X? Which one of these mistakes have you made before? I'd love to know. Do you agree or do you see it differently? Share this with a friend who is making this mistake. Save this post for when you travel to Sydney, whatever. Make it relevant and make it natural. All right, we've arrived in part 4, the 3 things that make or break your growth content. You might already be posting growth content, but is it actually getting you growth? Because not all growth content is good content. Maybe you are posting the right type of content, but if it's missing key elements, then it will still not bring in new followers. So we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. Let's break down the 3 things that will really make or break your growth content. The hook. And yes, again, because this is how important the hook is. The hook is, without the hook, no one stops to scroll. Like if you don't have a strong hook, then people are just going to keep scrolling. No one will see your content. But also, if your hook then doesn't match the value inside, like doesn't match the value inside your content, then people still drop off. So that's why I said if you do that very like surprised looking hook, that people do, but then you say like, oh, the supermarket sold out of apples. It's like, what the hell? Why did you just draw me in like that? And now you give me this? The hook needs to match the value inside, right? Or if you're going to say like, here are 2 mistakes everyone is making with this, and then you give 2 super basic, boring mistakes without any authority, without explaining why. No. One thing I also see people do a lot, classic mistake, is like a really strong hook. Like, I did this one thing and then everything changed. It's like, whoa, okay, everything changed. Well, let me know what that one thing is now. Please, come on, tell me. And then then it's like, read the caption. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake. Okay, I'll read the caption. Then you read the caption and it says like, oh, this one thing. Yeah. Oh my God, it changed the game, blah, blah, blah. If you want to know what it is, comment this and this, and I'll send you a DM. Like, oh. That makes or breaks your content too, because people will not engage with it and will leave very frustrated and will most definitely not follow you when you do that. So your hook matters because you need to get them to stop scrolling, pay attention, lean in, and then read your post, look at your post, watch your post, read your caption. It's really those first 2 seconds as well that tell Instagram whether to push your content further. If you don't stop the scroll, if the algorithm sees that everyone just scrolls straight past your post, doesn't even stop for 1 second, doesn't even stop for 2 seconds, then the algorithm knows like, okay, this is a shit post. I'm not going to show that to anyone else. So you won't get any reach. You get barely any reach. So this is how you can check if your hook is actually strong enough. So first of all, does it instantly make people curious? Are people like, oh, If you say like, here are 3 ways to lose weight. It's like, yeah, I mean, we've heard it all before, right? But then if you say, here are 3 proven ways to lose weight without constantly counting calories. I don't know. I'm not an expert. People are like, oh, I am constantly counting calories. So there are 3 ways that I can lose weight without counting calories? Tell me more. Number 2 is, would a complete stranger stop to read and watch? And again, this complete stranger needs to be your ideal follower. But would they stop and read and watch, or would they not care? Because if they don't care, then your hook is not strong enough. And this is also why it's really important to know who your ideal follower is, who your perfect fit follower is. You need to know what they care about, but you also need to know how they would say this. Like, what are the words they would use to tell you? Number 3, does it match the value in your posts, or is it just clickbait? And that adds up to the second point that I just told you, why your hook makes or breaks your content. If you have a really strong hook, and it stops the scroll, you got to live up to that promise. You got to give people what you hooked them in with. You got to give it to them, because if you don't, then that content is not going to help you grow. So an example of a weak hook is how to get better engagement. Boring, generic. But a stronger hook would be, if your engagement is dropping, do this now. Ooh, this? What do I need to do? Even stronger would be, if your engagement has gone to crickets and you've tried everything, here's one thing you didn't try. Oh, even better. But then I do have to give them one thing that they didn't try yet, right? So I got to live up to that. I got to make sure that obviously what I'm going to give them is not something that they can just, that every other Instagram coach tells you. Now, the positioning is also very, very, very important, because people don't just follow for info. They follow people they see as authorities. You follow me because you know that I'm a good Instagram coach. You follow me because you know that I know what I'm talking about. You follow me because I've grown 2 accounts, because I have 12 years of marketing experience, because I have hundreds of clients who grew their Instagram accounts with my help. That's why you follow me. You know that whatever I tell you about Instagram, it's true and it works. So growth content gets attention. If growth content gets attention, but if it doesn't position you as an expert, you're not going to grow. If someone lands on your profile, they need to instantly see you as a valuable person to follow, because otherwise you lose them. This is also why your bio is so important. If your bio is not optimized, and if your bio doesn't breathe what you are, who you are, what you're about, what your credibility is, if your bio and the bio doesn't like instantly show people, then you lose them. It's also why I have a post pinned to my account, to my Instagram account, where you see me literally on stage with a mic in my hand. You don't hear me talk because I put an audio over it, but you see me talking on stage at Meta. It's the first post you see. First post you see if you go to my profile. Why? Because it makes me an authority. Because it shows people like, whoa, okay, she's an Instagram coach. She's on stage at Meta. Oh, she must be a good coach. She must be someone worth following. Every single thing I do is strategic, my friend. So if you want to do that, then you got to make sure that you post that authority content, but also, pin the right reels and post the right highlights and work on that bio. Now, there's a quick test that you can do to see if your content positions you as an expert. So first of all, does your post show your unique take or perspective? And like I said, not every post needs to have a unique take or your unique perspective, but at least you need to give people not just like, oh, do these 3 things if you want to lose weight. No, explain to them why and how that helps them lose weight. Like, show your expertise, right? Show your expertise behind something. Plus, would someone instantly understand what you do and why they should follow you? If someone comes across one of my posts, it has to be instantly clear that it's about Instagram growth. And it also has to be instantly clear that what I tell you is good shit. So you need to follow me. There's some more examples of content that gets attention but lacks position in is, for example, a generic tip. Try this trending audio. Yeah, why would I try this trending audio if you tell me to? I don't give a fuck. Instead, if I say my clients have been using this audio and they're seeing 3 times more reach, here's why it works. Or basic. Instagram favors video content. Instagram likes reels. Well, no shit, Sherlock. But then if I say, after testing 100 reels, authority, I tested 100 reels, see what I did there? Like, it's not even that you have to, get invited to Meta like I have or have 2 accounts that you've grown. Authority can come in all sorts of different ways and shapes. Like, after testing 100 reels, here's what actually makes video perform better. I tested 100 reels. That's why I know that's already great authority positioning. So try not to overthink this. And also, like, I want to acknowledge you're not going to maybe get this right from the start. It's not an easy one to position yourself as an authority. And like I said, you don't have to do it in every single post, but it's something you really want to start doing. And it's something you really also want to start doing more and more and more because, like I said, getting people to follow you is getting harder every single day because people are just becoming so selective on who they follow. The message, that's the third. Is your message clear, simple, and built for engagement? If your message isn't clear, if no one engages, then Instagram won't push your content. So if your message isn't clear, no one's going to engage. If no one engages, Instagram is not going to push your content. So first of all, your message has to be clear in the hook, right? People scroll fast. If your message in the hook isn't clear, they move on. That's why you shouldn't be using jargon. That's why you should make sure that the level of words and writing that you do is on like a 10-year-old level. Growth content, and I really want you to remember this too. If you're taking notes, write this down, big underlined exclamation marks. Growth content should be simple, direct, and easy to engage with. It should be simple, direct, and easy to engage with. Like the content that really gets so much engagement are like, for example, like simple cleaning hacks. I'm always very like prone to those reels when I see one of those, like, oh, this one simple hack will clean your dishwasher within minutes. I'm like, yes, tell me more. Here's how to wash your strawberries so that it gets rid of all the pesticides. All ears. Simple, direct, and easy to engage with. Save. Share this with my partner because we love strawberries, but I've been actually thinking about it a lot because strawberries are apparently super poisonous. And now you can just use baking soda to clean them. Send that to my partner. So if you want to check if your message is clear enough, then first of all, does someone instantly get it without needing extra context? Sorry, it's a word I struggle with. And could a 10-year-old explain your post back to you? Is it simple enough for a 10-year-old to understand? Unless, of course, you are a doctor and your ideal follower are doctors as well. And, doctors are obviously a bit of a different level than 10-year-olds. But generally speaking, could a 10-year-old explain your post back to you? So examples of weak versus strong messaging. Weak is too complex. Like your engagement rate is low because your audience segmentation strategy isn't optimized. You either fall asleep or you keep scrolling. But if it's clear and engaging, if your engagement sucks, it's probably because of this mistake. And I also use your language. If your engagement sucks, I don't say if your engagement rate is low. You would never say that. Oh, bummer. I just checked my Instagram account and my engagement rate is so low. Maybe I need to work on my audience segmentation strategy. I need to optimize it. You wouldn't say that. But you would say like, oh, my engagement sucks. Right? So I'm not even like keeping it simple and making it strong. I'm also using the right language. All right, a quick action checklist. Here's a quick recap of the three things that make or break growth content that we just discussed. So, first of all, the hook. If no one stops, no one sees it. Second of all, the positioning. If people don't see you as an expert, they don't follow. And number three, the message. If it's not clear, simple, and engaging, then people won't interact. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to check your last 5 posts, or maybe even your last 10, 20, 30 posts, depending on how much time you have and how serious you want to take this. And I would take it very serious. Did your last 5 posts, and I should say your last 5 growth posts, right? Not your nurturing your sales content, but did your last 5 growth posts, did you have all these 3 things? Or was there maybe one of these, like the hook, the positioning, or the message that you could have improved on? Now, right now, I want you to pick one and then refine it using what you learned today. So if the hook wasn't strong enough, make the hook stronger. If the positioning, didn't really position you as an expert, make sure that you add in the credibility. If the message wasn't clear or simple or engaging, make sure it is. And keep testing, keep tracking, keep tweaking, because growth comes from strategy, not luck. And I don't want to discourage you, but it's not like, the first post that you were going to post after this training, after this masterclass, is going to go viral. That's not how it works. This is something that you have to master. It's something that you have to get better at. And how do you get better? By practicing. You have all the knowledge now, you have the base now, you have the strategy now, you know what needs to be in your growth content for it to be good growth content. And now start doing it. And it will become like, it will start to click more and more and more. Like right now, you might still be a little bit like, oh, Eve said this and this, but I don't really get what she means yet. Or, you might be like, oh, but it will click. Trust me, the more you post and the more you do this, the easier it gets and the more it will click. But with all of this, there is still one mindset shift that separates people who grow fast from those who keep guessing. So that brings me to part 5, the number one mindset shift that will change how you post forever. Okay, let me just quickly get a cup of sip of tea. The number one mindset shift that will change how you post forever. Hear me when I say this. Growth content isn't about you, it's about them. And now I don't mean, this is also a good lesson, but I don't mean that you should make it about your followers, that you should not say like, oh, I grew 2 accounts. No, I grew 2 accounts and here's why this matters to you. That too, that's also very important. But the reason why most people struggle with growth content is because they overthink it. They're like, oh, am I repeating myself or am I boring my audience or am I being too salesy? Like, I already posted about this topic yesterday. Can I talk about it today? No. I already discussed this one thing last week. So I got to wait until at least a month from now until I can talk about it again. Growth content isn't about you, but it's about the people who need to find you. If you make this mindset shift, if you realize like it's not about you, it's about them and what they need to hear, then you stop worrying about whether you sound repetitive. You stop stressing over every post being perfect and you start focusing on helping the right people discover you. When you stop making content for yourself and start making it for the person who needs it, posting gets easier, engagement grows, and new followers come naturally. So don't think, oh, I don't want to repeat myself, or I feel like I'm saying the same things over and over, or I don't know if this post is good enough. I. I don't want to repeat myself. I feel like no, it's about what they need to hear. Is your message important? Do they need to learn this? Do they need to hear this? Do they need to see this? Yes, then it's totally fine. If you say it once, twice, 50 times. When trial reels came out, I went hard on the trial reels content, not because I necessarily wanted to push my program. Obviously, yes, I wanted people to buy that program, 100%. I'm running a business, but maybe mainly because that feature is so good that I don't want people to miss out. So I'll keep talking about it until everyone hears me, because also don't forget, only a small portion of your audience sees all your content. It's like with me, it's only like 10% of my audience sees my content. So you can perfectly post about something on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday about the same topic, absolutely fine. So what you should be thinking instead is, someone out there still hasn't heard this message. New followers need to hear this for the first time. I'm making it easy for the right people to find me. And if you are scared about repeating yourself, if you feel like you are saying the same things over and over and you don't want to bore your followers with that, use trial reels. That's why Instagram gave us that feature, so that you can test and do whatever you want without boring your followers. You need to stop stressing over everything that you post. The people who grow the fastest aren't the ones who stress over every post. They're the ones who focus on showing up for the right people over and over again. You are serving by talking about whatever you do, whatever your niche is, whatever your industry is, by talking about it over and over and over and over and over again. Even though sometimes it's the same subject, a lot of times you are doing that to help people. You are doing that because they need to hear it. You're doing that because, it brings them value. Think about that value. So, what happens next? So now you have learned everything you need to start creating growth content, like content that actually works. So you've learned the three types of growth content: trend-based, evergreen, and authority. You've learned the formula that makes content pull people in effortlessly. You've learned the three biggest factors that make or break your growth content. And you have learned the number one mindset shift that changes how you post forever. It's not about you, it's about them and what they need to hear. And trust me, they need you. So, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you post with strategy, consistency, and confidence. So, let's talk about how to actually put this into action. Knowing is one thing, taking action, that is actually what creates growth. So, I don't want you to just, watch this and be like, oh, yeah, that was good info. It was a lot of info. I know it's a lot. So, you can watch this as many times as you like. And I would actually recommend it that you watch it at least two more times, because you'll always pick up new things, because I ramble so much. But you'll always pick up new things, and you'll always learn new things when you watch it a third, fourth, fifth time even. But I really want you to take action. So, moving on, how much of your content should be growth content? If you are actively trying to grow, so if your account is still fairly new, you only have a couple of hundred followers or even a couple of thousand, and you are really looking for growth, really looking for new followers, really looking to grow your account so you can work with brands, or really looking to grow your account so that you can sell your own services or products, then around 80% of your content should be growth content. 80. If you are in a season of more like nurturing and selling, like I am, I already have an established following, I still want to grow, but growing is absolutely not my main priority right now, then 50% growth content, 30% nurture content, and 20% sales content is good. And don't forget, growth content brings people in, but nurture and sales content turns them into clients. Just growing on Instagram, because that's a misconception a lot of people have. Oh, if I only had more followers, then I would make more sales, then I would have brands line up to work with me. But that's not true. Nurture, aka community, if you want to work with brands, and sales content, that turns people into clients, into customers. So what I want you to do next, I want you to choose one of the three growth content. Sorry, it's been a long masterclass. I want you to choose one of the three growth content types trend-based, evergreen, or authority, and post it this week. If you want to do more, that's fine, but I want you to start with at least one. Like, I don't want to overwhelm you. Don't, feel like you have to do everything at once, like right now. That's absolutely not the case. But choose one of the 3 growth content types that you feel most comfortable with and post it this week. Then test different hooks, test different formats, and see what gets the best reach. And please, for the love of God, use trial reels for this, because that's exactly what trial reels are for. And then track what works and double down on posts that bring in non-followers. So really start looking at those insights, scroll down at the insights of your reels, and see how many followers those reels are bringing in, and do more of what works. Commit to at least 30 days of consistent growth content. And actually, I should say 3 months or 6 months, and then watch what happens. The people who grow the fastest don't post randomly. They post with purpose. And the more you apply this, the easier it gets. Let's take a deep breath together, because this was a lot. We have covered so much inside this class. I know it was a lot. I know that my voice is definitely feeling this after this session. I hope that you absolutely loved this, and I hope that you learned so much, and that you also got some new insights into things that you maybe thought you already knew. But that you now understand better, like having a hook on your content, for example. It's one of these basic Instagram 101 things, but why does a hook actually matter? And what makes a good hook? So many interim coaches, and I was guilty of this as well, used to give away, like free like PDFs with like, 99 hooks for you to grow. Yeah, but they're not going to do anything for you if they're not, authoritative, and they're not going to do anything for you if they're not, relatable to your niche, and they're not going to do anything for you. It all needs to add up, right? Like, everything needs to work hand in hand. That is actually the overarching theme of Instagram growth. There are so many factors to growing on Instagram. It's not just like, you do this one thing and you grow. No, your strategy it's a lot. And growth content is a very important part of that strategy. So I hope that you feel more confident now. That is my main goal after this masterclass, that you feel more confident in creating growth content, that you now have ideas to play with, to post. And I want to thank you for watching this training, watching this masterclass, and I hope to see you in one of my other programs very, very soon. Bye.